Hi, Manpreet. Good morning.
Good morning, Sandhya.
Uh, I'm so excited about our session that's going to start and to share the platform with you.
Absolutely. I have a similar feeling and I'm super excited. I think today's session is like one of the most important sessions that we can look forward to.
Absolutely right. I think so often we have the most lofty of desires and plans, but to actually translate that into reality and like the all the fears and the doubts and in fact one of the very interesting aspects of habit change is that people will often only embark upon behavior change if they feel like they have a reasonably good chance of success. So we have the critical to that, taking that first step is kind of, we want to know at the back of our minds that, okay, there's a pretty good chance I'm gonna clear this hurdle, otherwise it's not worth me getting out of bed or changing anything.
Yes, absolutely. And I think when you said this, I remember of those, college days when we were passing out from 12th and had to sit for our exams. I mean, definitely one would not want to sit in something that you know that maybe you're not going to clear it. So I think definitely that feeling that I'm going to go through it and I'm going to clear it or probably pass on through it, I think is super important when we start the journey.
Absolutely. And I hope, hello everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So today's session really is about the first steps to making a choice to go vegan. And I am Sandhya Krishnan, and my co-presenter is lovely Manpreet Kalra. You would have heard her on day one. We're going to be, I think between us, if we're able to sort of just explain how our mind actually works in terms of habit change, and you going into the details of what those first steps could look like, I think that's a win for us. What do you say, Manpreet?
Absolutely. I think we'll probably club them all together and make it like a super, ball for all our, listeners, and probably they'll have something to take back where they can start off their journey.
Lovely, lovely. That's the hope. Fingers crossed. And with that, I'm going to jump into my host's shoes and introduce you, Manpreet. So, welcome everybody to day 5. Today, is it day 4 or day 5? Oh my God, the final day of the Vegan India Conference. And my co-presenter today is Manpreet Kalra. She's the head nutritionist of the Santulan.com, an Indian platform on a mission to bring nutrition empowerment amongst people, thereby ensuring that they live a life full of energy and satisfaction. Manpreet has 14 plus years of experience fashioning people's diet, nutrition, and lifestyle in general. Earning an undergraduate and postgraduate degree in food and nutrition with a specialization in food science and therapeutic nutrition from Lady Irwin College in Delhi, has opened her to a world of tremendous possibilities when it comes to tailoring people's daily diet, customized for their specific lifestyle. She's an international diabetics educator and pursuing her postmaster's research on mindfulness and reducing occupational stress from Hamburg University of the Applied Sciences in Germany. Her vast knowledge of both the body and mind help her in heal and provide overall well-being to her clients worldwide. So welcome, Manpreet. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor to have you here and for us to present together.
Thank you so much. Thanks again.
And a little bit about me, guys. I know I've been all over the conference, but let me officially introduce myself. I'm Sandhya Krishnan. I'm an ICF certified wellness and mindfulness coach, focusing on personal mastery, productivity, and really to help people manage overwhelm and to design their lives to live consciously. So I have over 20 years of experience across industries as diverse as the law, the media, art, technology, retail, and wellness. And I also have over 18 years of study in philosophy and mindfulness. And I use the combination of these to help young professionals find deep purpose, achieve habit change, contentment, and balance in their lives. So that's a little bit about me. And without further ado, Manpreet, what say we jump into the topic of the day? I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Absolutely, Sandhya, and I'm also super excited to listen to you.
Lovely. You better ask me questions as well, right? So we're going to be opening this up to a lot of questions because you really want to address each person's pain point, and that's really key. So without further ado, I will start my presentation. Yes, to the person who's asking, I will be happy to share my contact details. Okay, so before we begin, I actually do have a question for you. Well, this actually, I'm now addressing both vegans and non-vegans, all right? Okay. For anybody that's turned vegan, how many of you have been at the receiving end of memes, helpful articles, jokes about vegans? Hands up, yes, if you have. I certainly have. Okay, okay. And now, for those who are non-vegans, and absolutely no judgment, I was one myself. How many of us have had ideas about, vegans being a particular kind of person, either somewhat sanctimonious or otherwise, like physically somewhat weak and emaciated? I know I certainly had a lot of misconceptions myself. I'm not going to deny that. Yes, yes, okay. Is vegan or plant-based the same or different? I will clarify that in just a minute, Akshay. But so we do have all of these notions, right? And in fact, one of the articles that I was sent by a well-meaning or perhaps not so well-meaning friend was Why the World Hates Vegans. Okay, and this was by the Guardian. There's a lot of chitter chatter around it, and it is this, right, that yes, sometimes there is a perception that we tend to be sanctimonious. But fun fact, as human behavior goes, each of us believes that our moral choices is somewhat superior to other people's moral choices. Okay, and that's at the root of it. So really, it is neither for a vegan or a plant-based person eater to judge anybody else any more than it is for somebody that's not tried something like this to try to judge about anybody else. And that's really the baseline that I would like to set. Okay, and as the article goes, one of the other reasons why the world hates vegans, sort of back in the day, was that in a sense we all believe ourselves to be very rational and logical human beings. Let me tell you, none of us is. Okay, we might think that we're making our decisions based on really the best considerations, but how our brain actually works is that we kind of take a viewpoint and then we'll go out of our way to justify that viewpoint. Okay. So again, that's just a good sort of note to have about how all of our brains work. So in fact, we can hack exactly that if we find good enough reasons to want to change our habits. Okay, so why I'm titling my talk "Welcome to the Plant Party." And Akshay, to answer your question, veganism is a lifestyle. It's not just about the food, but it's about all the choices that you make that eliminate animals or harm to animals. Plant-based eating is really a person who eats plant-based food. Now, these might be whole plant foods, like natural foods. It could be, factory-created foods. We'll talk about the pros and cons, a little bit about all of that. But above all else, what I would like to say is that if you are uncomfortable with labels, you don't need the labels. If you feel like any kind of habit change is about drudgery and pain and torture, that is what I hope to dispel in today's talk. And we are going to I would like to invite you to the plant party. Okay, so here we go. Why do I say plant party? Okay, so like I said, I also had this notion that, oh my God, when you give up something that you love, what results is absolute, austere drudgery, or at least austerity, right? You have these images of like sadhus looking all serious and solemn, and doesn't look like a lot of fun. You're like, okay, maybe someday when I'm old and I've had my fill of this world. But I was actually really amazed. One of my own mindfulness teachers, he happened to come with his students to a wedding that I happened to attend. All right. Now, they were a riot. Here they were in a 5-star hotel. Okay, their plate was full of food, but it looked like the simplest of the ingredients in this vast buffet of like 100+ items. But my God, the ruckus they created. They were laughing, they were doubled over, they were having an absolute blast. And that's when I said, oh my God, so much of what we associate with enjoyment and pleasure and like the must-haves in our lives, are we really looking at the right aspects of it? Okay, so that's where actually I think my questioning began. Like, really, where's the real happiness coming from? I want what they have, and that's really how my journey began. I think and of course, there are different reasons. I'll tell you what my reasons for turning plant-based were. But coming down to the basics, any kind of habit change appears to be hard, right? So why do you think that is? Any thoughts? Why is habit change so hard for all of us? Whether it's trying to get fitter or change our food habits or trying to wake up earlier or change the way we work. Why is this so difficult? I mean, if we know a better way to be, it should be easy enough to just get, just like put our shoes on and walk that road, right? Absolutely, Stuti. We're conditioned that way. We don't like change. It makes us uncomfortable. Discipline, absolutely. That's and somewhere the thought that maybe what we were doing was wrong. Okay, so wrong is a judgment statement, but you're absolutely right. We're constantly judging each of our actions, right? So if we had to take that part of it outside, it's exactly this automatic behavior. Okay, so much of our life, again, we might think that we are very thinking and critical and top of the food chain kind of animals, but we are actually animals. And our brain, while we might believe that it is to appreciate art and do critical thinking and send men to Mars, our brain's biggest job essentially is just to keep us alive in what it knows is the safe and normal, and that includes the sort of fat content that is normal to us, the temperature that is normal to us, the habits and the behaviors that are normal to us, homeostasis, if you've ever heard the word. But really, what happens is that when we embark on a particular action, like brushing our teeth, certain neurons will fire in a particular sequence, and those neurons form like a superhighway, right? There's a myelin sheath that forms over it, and so information passes super fast, but it is unthinking. Do you have to ask yourself every day which hand you pick the brush up with, how you brush? No, you don't. But try brushing your hand one day with your non-dominant hand, brushing your teeth one day with your non-dominant hand. It is not going to be easy, right? And so much of habit change is exactly this, us teaching our neurons to fire in a new way that is unfamiliar to us, and our little caveman brain, and yes, our brains haven't changed very much from our caveman ancestors, is going to scream and say, no, I don't know how to keep you safe if you go down this new path. I don't know what to do. I don't know how, let's just stay in the safe. So that initial screaming, we just need to recognize is going to be quite normal, and we need to calm our little brains down. Okay, because we also have something beautiful, which is, call it your neocortex, call it your executive functioning, call it cognitive thinking, call it your third eye, call it whatever name you want, but it is also very much present in our lives, so why not use it? So now we're going to go step by step. Okay, if you're going to embark on a change, and in this case, we're going to try and eat. I will focus a little bit more on the plant-based eating, okay? Because, and you can start anywhere in your vegan choices by not using leather products or not wearing animal products. But we're talking here primarily about food. So I'll say, let's talk about what is the basic, what are the first principles of good eating? And no matter what country, lifestyle, habit you come from, the basics are pretty simple. I'm going to sum it up with this beautiful line from a food writer and scientist, Michael Pollan. He says, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Okay, you do that, you cannot go wrong in terms of your health, in terms of the environment, in terms of many other things which we'll discover in greater detail now. Okay, now what is food? Okay, that is a more complicated question. Is it something? The problem today with a lot of us is that nothing in nature, and why we feel like so deprived in that sense, is that nothing in nature can concentrate calories and flavors the way a factory can. Okay, my colleague from a company I used to work for called Kenzai, Patrick Reynolds, he summed it up really beautifully. He said, think of like the entire technology of a supercomputer shrunk into the real estate of a smartphone. Okay, that's kind of what processed food and factory foods do. Okay, there's all of these. Probably one of the most calorie-dense foods in nature is the coconut, right? And we heard from Dr. Vinita Shah that please eat coconut even if you're on a calorie deficit diet. It's no problem. We can't really go wrong. But the minute we go, and this is no judgment of it, again, always remember that you have a choice. Okay? And we make the choices based on where we are and where we'd like to go. And that's really the crux of what this talk is about. The first step to habit change is really about finding your why. and don't let anybody shame you, judge you, or try and decide on your behalf for this. Always remember that there is power in owning your choice. And I will say this, that even if you feel helpless, do know that it is a choice that you are making to be helpless in that moment. That just means that it's the consequence of the choice that you don't want to pay. So every choice you make will have a consequence. There is a cost to pay, and we're either prepared to pay it or we're not. So once you know it, there's no judgment. It's like, okay, this is going to be really painful and I simply cannot take this on right now. I'm not going to do it. Yes, am I prepared to pay the cost for it? Whether you are or not, my friend, we will have to. So we just need to accept that. Then a lot of the drama and the confusion in our head sort of goes out of the window. Okay, so first step, you need to choose why you want to go vegan or plant-based. Is it for the environment? Is it for ethical considerations? Is it for your health? And each of these choices could have a different path. All right. So in my case, it was primarily health. I will say that that was my entry point, although eventually they all get affected, right? I have both my grandmothers lived well into their 90s, but there was such a stark difference, and they were both pretty much the same age. They were great friends, but they lived their last few decades so drastically differently. My maternal grandmother spent like her last 3 decades almost in various stages of being an invalid and with multiple health conditions, losing her mind to dementia, and her body had completely broken down. My paternal grandmother had 2 rules that she lived by. She lived on a sort of higher, she lived sort of like on a house that was up a hill. She was like, I'm only going down these steps walking or, flat out cold. Right? Not in a wheelchair. And second rule was, she was like, until the day I die, I would like to be washing my own bed sheets. Now go figure, I don't know why it was bed sheets, but I presume it's one of the more tougher things to wash if you've ever tried it. It is exhausting. But that was her rule. And let me tell you, till the morning that she had a heart attack and just lay down in bed and pass away, she was well and truly capable of washing her own bed sheets. And I was like, wow, I want to be like that. And that was my why. And I'm going to show you now how to use your why, how to plumb that to give yourself a strong purpose, right? So again, non-judgment of anybody else's choices, right? If I had to choose the environment, let me say that one of the worst things you could possibly do for the environment is to actually, in terms of carbon footprint, is to actually have kids. And I have 2 kids. So who am I to sit here in sanctimony and say, oh, look, I'm vegan. I'm in a position to judge you. Right? I have one of the worst environmental crimes on my hands. So find your why. Next step, and this is really, if you follow this, this is what the path looks like, right? We all think that, okay, now I know I'm going to do this. I've watched Game Changers. I'm going to turn vegan overnight. And yes, this is my straight up path. Sorry. Like I said, that caveman brain is going to scream and shout. There are going to be hurdles in your way. There's going to be your environment that's not going to support you. They're like, why? Are you crazy? You will get, where you get your protein from, and all of these questions that we've heard over the last so many days. And so think of the path really as a winding road, but also that there's going to be no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Well, actually there is, meaning that as you live this lifestyle, you will get better health, you will be contributing to environmental sustainability, you will be more ethical. But unfortunately, that little caveman brain can't really see all of those benefits right now. Okay? Our caveman brain is only interested in immediacy. What you see is all there is. And that's what it's going to focus on, which is why it is so hard for us to make these decisions, right? So think of it simply as a road that you're going to walk on, not the straight and narrow. It is going to meander. So start with, I am here. This is who I am. This is my circumstance. See the dream. This is why I'm undertaking this new path. All right. I need to prep for it. Any kind of change, any kind of new firing of neurons is going to take effort. Next steps, go ahead and take just the smallest step that you feel comfortable to take. I know that a lot of people talk about an all or nothing. I turned vegan overnight. If you are that all or nothing person, go ahead. Most of us, I will say, are not that. So just think about the first step. It's very imperfect, but not doing anything is a guarantee that nothing is going to change. And also that first step is your first way to reverse the despair that you might be feeling about various aspects of your life or the world around you. Right? The best antidote to despair is action. And then we find our anchors. I have pictures of my grandmother up on my desk. So every day when I look at that, I remind myself why I'm doing this, right? And you need to find those for yourself as well, whatever be your anchors. Get the accountability you need in place. Have those people who will tell you that, oh my God, if I'm feeling that temptation, help me out here. You are not alone in this journey. It really helps to have buddies along in your path. My husband turned vegan the day I did. And for him, it's like, my wife's doing it, I'm doing it, I have no other questions about it. But having him on this journey has been so much fun for me, because we now are on a gastronomical journey of vegan delights, so to speak, most of which involve everyday regular home food, I might add. But I promised you enjoyment. Enjoyment will come. Lastly, I will say, please prepare to fail. Okay, every path of change does involve certain steps of regression. I use the word failure, but do know that is very much, we fail forward. And that is the progress that we're looking at, until finally the neurons are firing in a completely different way. We've created a new superhighway in our brain, and the old paths simply fall to disuse over time. They might still be there, but no judgment. This was also part of us. This is how we came to this point of awareness. That's all there is to it. There is one point that I wanted to raise, which was the matter of taste. Okay, so we are so attached to the idea of taste. Oh, I'm a foodie. I can taste the subtle flavors of triple layer chocolate sundae, blah, blah, blah. And that's how right now we define foodie. Okay. I will actually use the definition of Mary Roach, who's a hilarious food scientist, by the way. And she's written actually several science books. You should look her up, where she says that taste is essentially 1 part mouth and nose, 2 parts ego. I'll just pause for effect. Okay, think about that, which means that it is very, very susceptible to change. And I will talk about the parts of taste that we tend to be more and more attached to, and how those can change as well. So let's understand where the pull really lies. Okay, how many of us are self-confessed like sweet tooths? Show of hands. How many of us absolutely adore the taste of umami, which is like what you'd find in like meat and a sizzler or whatever? And apologies to anybody that's getting triggered by these words. Umami, yeah, absolutely. Okay, how many of us love like fatty, crunchy, salty foods? Okay, so is it the food that we're craving? No, it's not. Let me tell you what's actually happening inside our brains, okay? Our brains, like I said, not really interested in your taste buds, this, that, wants to keep you alive. Remember that, right? So what your brilliant brain will do is say, oh my God, Sandhya, you found sugar? I'm going to convert that into glucose. That means you can survive another day. Good girl. And it's going to reward me with dopamine. And I'll get a ping of pleasure. And I'm going to survive another day. I feel good. Okay. Oh my God, I found umami. Brain is going to say, good girl, Sandhya, you found a rich source of protein. That means that I can keep you alive for another day. Congratulations, here's your reward, dopamine. And so on and so forth. Okay. And what we do is we become addicted. Love sugar? Yes, so does a rat. Love your umami? Yes, so does a cat. Okay. So that's all there is to it. And a lot of research, there was research that talked about how, if we manage to create the dopamine in other foods, and if we can recreate that feeling of pleasure, let's pick that food. Yes, if you're addicted to the dopamine, then your next best step is to pick is less harmful version of dopamine, right? But do know that dopamine chasing just makes you a rat, going from one place to another place, chasing the next high. And the other problem with that is that you get neutralized to this, and you need just not 1 scoop, not 2 scoops, but you need 3 scoops, because you need higher and higher levels of that hit to get that same reward. And finally, and that's where the attachment develops, and finally, all of media, there isn't very much money to be made in saying, please buy this tomato. It is a superfood. It will get you the best of health. Do it today. Yeah, you don't see a lot of that in the media. Where's the money to be made? in making you buy products which are made in a factory, which have a lot of money and artificial, like I said, all of this concentration behind. Now, no judgment of the brands that are exhibiting here. Everybody's doing their dharma. They are helping us. We make our choices, but the choice lies always with us. So if you're being sold something, two questions to ask yourself is, what is the real cost that I'm paying? The real cost. And two, who's making money out of this? Okay. Somebody's usually making money out of this. Okay. What we misunderstand, we think it's going to take willpower. Okay. Willpower is finite. It's essentially, from a neuroscience perspective, it's essentially just our body budget, which gets replenished on a daily basis. And all of the hundreds of decisions that we make and the things that we have to do depleted. Do I watch Netflix? What do I wear today? What do I have to do? Do I do this task first? Now do I exercise? Do I do this? All of these. So if you rely on willpower, and especially at the end of the day when it's depleted and you're like, now do I order from Swiggy or Zomato? By then your brain is like, oh God, not another decision. Now do I pick vegetarian or do I pick non-veg? By then you're like, oh my God, let's just don't think anymore. Are you seeing what's happening there? So what else works, right? Rewards, gamification, they work. It's another dopamine hit again. But in food, it's like, between ordering that chicken tikka masala and between getting a star or a flash on an app, I don't know how well that works. By the way, Zomato also will give you those stars and flash. So, try beating that one in terms of rewards. And finally, morals. This is a bit of a conflicting one, but I'll separate morals from values. A lot of things we do because we feel we ought to be doing or we should do them, and that creates like this tussle and push and pull within us, and it just adds to our anxiety, which will in turn make us choose poorer food choices, and it ends up in misery for us. Okay. Instead, what I will invite you to do is to look for deeper sources of happiness. Okay, we think of like our body being us, and so we buy things, we feed ourselves things, we assault our senses with visuals, with sounds, with Netflix, with so many things. But all of these pleasures are fleeting. They do not last more than 5 seconds. I'll invite you to try and remember the meal that you had last night. You may have enjoyed it like crazy in that moment, but today, if I asked you, did you enjoy it? You're like, oh yeah, whatever. And so where does our pleasure really lie? Where does happiness really lie? Had a conversation with a friend yesterday, still feeling good about it, that you reconnected after 10 years. Had a discussion with a colleague about like a new way to build a product. How many months is that going to keep you excited for? Had thoughts about some purpose that you want to fulfill in this world, intellectual, that can drive you for years and years and years. And the most addictive of all pleasures, and trust me, it is an addiction no less, is the idea of spiritual oneness, or the idea of getting attached to God. Look, you have stories of Mirabai and like wise men in all religions and philosophies who, you ask them, they'll have nothing on planet Earth. They'll have like a loincloth, and you ask them, what do you need? Can I give you gold? And they're like, oh my God, I have everything I need. I'm in such bliss. That's basically what these stories are trying to tell us, right? That we need nothing from the outside for our happiness. Happiness we are, bliss we are, and we forget that, and therefore we seek it out in the external world. And so therefore, the most powerful tool that we have in our arsenal is mindfulness. All we need to do is practice the pause. We pause, we come back to our body, our deepest body that we can visualize. We come back to ourselves. We so often lose ourselves in the world, but we need to get enjoyment back with being with ourselves. And we have to have, now that we have this big plan, we know we're going to go to some place lovely, but for now, all we need to think about is present moment awareness and enjoy just the action you have in front of you. And that's when we can make the most conscious choices and live our lives with complete enjoyment. Okay, so this is just a recap of the steps. Is it important to have a goal? Yes, it is, because without that, we have no idea where we're going. Okay, and then we pick all of our steps to go there. No self-judgment. Compassion is something I want to focus on towards others, towards ourselves. And eventually what happens is we transform, and you will not even realize that. We have something called hedonistic adaptation. We get very used to the good things. You won't even realize that you're making better and better choices, and you're not the person who was getting as agitated as before. You're not the person who was getting as upset as before. You won't even realize that until you come back to an old situation or somebody points it out to you. But you are then transformed. Okay? And that's where the enjoyment, that's where the peace, that's where arguably the deepest happiness could lie. Don't take my word for it. Test it out and try it out for yourself. Thank you so much. And it's over to Manpreet right now. We'll take questions at the end.
Awesome, Sandhya. Thank you so much. It was so amazing, so blissful. Really, and I think, of course, all the participants as well. I was also looking to the chat box, and I think I'm sure, like me, everybody has enjoyed your talk so much. It was wonderful, enlightening. I mean, for me as well. Thank you so much for your.
And I'm looking forward to yours, where we get down to the basics. So tell us our next steps, Manpreet.
Perfect. All right. So I just share.